While Picasso had eyes like shiny pieces of coal, Gargallo, a well-ordered and orderly man, had a rebel lock of hair that revealed his restless mind. Using marble or clay, he gave us the most perfect and classically beautiful nudes. In the privacy of his studio, he also made metals dance to his tune and invented corporal voids that earned him a place among the avant-gardes. This apparently calm man was actually brimming with a creative fire, of which that rebel lock of hair was the only visible hint. Adding and subtracting is the arithmetic of art. For centuries, classical sculpture was regarded as the art of subtraction. Marble allows no mistakes. It demands the application of strength and the pursuit of precision. The chisel must aim true. The finish must be very smooth. The sculptor must be powerful yet gentle. Painting, music and poetry are all arts in which things are added. Strokes of the paintbrush, notes are verses, until the desired result is achieved. During the course of these additions, successive subtractions also take place. They are arts of the spirit and of hesitation. Gargallo's avant-garde sculpture, suffused with music and poetry, would also be constructed through a series of additions and subtractions. As a boy, Gargallo learned to add and subtract at a village school in Aragon. His apprenticeship and transformation into a sculptor occurred in the two cities that form the axis of his life, Barcelona and Paris. It was during his early experience of artist studios and art schools that Gargallo fell in love with classical Greek sculpture. Subsequently, he was influenced by the Severist expression of Catalonian Art Nouveau, which left its mark on the commissions he received to produce various monuments associated with the theatre, but above all on the wall of the Hospital de la Santa Cruz y de San Pablo in Barcelona. In 1903, he made his first trip to Paris, where he saw Rodin's work and then Maillol's. Much later, he would be enthralled by the simpler Art Deco style. Barcelona, Paris, was a physical and spiritual journey that he repeated at different times throughout his life and that stoked the fires of his creative passion. Classical sculpture was a lifelong pursuit, initially to the exclusion of all else and later randomly, depending on his mental afflictions and the energy his fragile health afforded him. The exquisite vigour of his athletes transports us to the mountain fervour in the stands. The neighing of his beasts keeps the Olympic Stadium of Montjuic frozen in time. Gargallo was never a slave to classical forms. he knew that art was beginning to seek out new geographies, new media. In 1907, he visited his friend Picasso in Paris and was fascinated by his Cubist work. That year, perhaps just for fun, he made his first piece in metal. Small mask with lock of hair, which is probably a self-portrait, although he may not have suspected it. This was to become a predominant element in his new vision of sculpture. Unlike many of his friends, he experimented slowly, meticulously, constantly confronting and communing with classical sculpture. While never abandoning stone or clay, which would subsequently become bronze, his hands would increasingly drift to metal, working directly with copper, brass, lead, iron and the like, which could be cast and welded, bent, twisted, embossed, beaten. In the process, he began to discover the empty volumes that remained inside the metals. Alone in his studio, he would wage his silent battles with metals and space. He delved ever deeper into a process, which was not always easy to describe, that led him towards simplicity, toward the construction of masses made of emptiness, barely traced by metal sheets or lines. Only a few masks, like the mask of Magali, whom he met in Paris in 1913, are more closed, as if guarding a mystery that Gargallo had yet to fathom. Metal speaks, but so does war. In 1914, his health prevented him from joining up in France, and he returned to Barcelona and married the woman with the strange name, who had been introduced to him by his friend, the painter Juan Gris. Magali became Gargallo's compass whenever he became disoriented in his creative labyrinth. Together with their daughter Pierrette, she also became a great promoter of his work after his death. In Barcelona, Gargallo worked precious metals, almost as if his fragile health and the unease of war had made him turn to delicacy. Around 1920, he began working with sheets of lead, a soft metal that yields to pressure, and stumbled on the negative of convexity, concavity. In every breast and belly, he would make a hollow to capture the light and produce the sensation of fullness, of having mass. These figures are small and very similar to what we might call Cubist sculpture. The two steps we've described, the masks and the lead figures with concave spaces, were simply test runs for what was to be his greatest discovery. As authoritarian winds blew across Spain under the dictatorship of Primo de Rivera, Gargallo lost his position as a teacher at the School of Arts and Crafts in Barcelona. With Magali and young Pierrette, he returned once more to Paris, this time for good. At the time, Paris was still dazzled by the Russian ballets and the athletic plasticity of their dancers. Theatre was turning its eyes to the Commedia dell'arte. Meanwhile, the images that Gargallo imported in his Iberian luggage, flamenco dancers, picadors, women with mantillas, captivated Picasso and Falla, both of whom were at the pinnacle of their Parisian success. There, Gargallo completed a series of classical pieces and began a new round of experiments, this time with cardboard templates. He analysed the figures that he imagined and sketched, broke them into fragments, and played around with them in the air. He constructed legs, hips, and skirts that resembled insects' wings. He traced concavities and revealed hollows. And he did all of this within a framework of canons steeped in classicism and weightlessness. He also made a series of heads, but in this case they were very open, voids delineated by metal wisps that formed the eyes, noses and lips of fetish women. The series ranges from the Art Deco skull of Kiki of Montparnasse and the absolute stylization of Greta Garbo. Though introverted and taciturn as a medieval monk, he could be as euphoric as a child when he discovered a new profile, when he was certain that he had found something that no one had seen before. He saw the void create flesh. "I think I've achieved something new," he said. Between 1933 and 1934, he engaged in a frenzy of activity, producing highly polished classical pieces, Academy figure. And he finally completed a figure which he had first sketched 30 years earlier. The voice of the prophet seemed to rumble like thunder as it works its way up from the belly and shoots towards the mouth. Unlike other avant-garde artists who would overwhelm and occasionally even offend the spectator, Gargallo delivered his work in a way that invited the spectator to finish it. But time was running out. Europe was once again being invaded by a poison ivy which would soon scale the walls of Spain. On the verge of achieving recognition as a universal master, pneumonia dealt him a mortal blow in 1934. The robust yet airy David had perhaps become a new form illuminated by his delicate yet tenacious spirit, imprisoned in a seemingly severe exterior, belied by a mischievous, unruly lock of hair.